Bring yourself up to a standing position, please, with your hands to the heart center. Attention in Tadasana Namaskara. Tadasana Namaskara. So legs together, which may or may not mean that the feet come together. It depends, doesn't it, on the dimension and the shape of the legs. Tadasana Namaskara. So hands in prayer, and then a little bit of movement of the foot, obviously movement of the feet, I should say. That helps to hydrate the myofascia. So lifting the inner aspect of one foot, the inner aspect of the other foot. Tuning out, tuning in, tuning out of the day, of busyness, of becoming, of not becoming, and tuning into that beyond words, tat param, that beyond. So for me, how's this for you? For me, if I move for a while, lifting up the inner aspect of one foot and the inner aspect of the other alternately, the whole body's moving. And as a result, the myofascia everywhere is moving. Stretch the arms forwards in front of you and come down to a not too low squat, just a little squat. Turn the palms in and come a little lower if you're okay to. Leaning forwards from the hip joints. Put no pain in the knee joints. Come a little higher if there is pain. Let the whole pose move, and gradually, without causing tension or blockage of energy, raise the arms up. So we've got this Utkatasana. Utkata means to squat. Then continue your journey up. Take a big circle, hands on hips. Take a deep breath in, followed by a deep breath out. Eyes soft, brain soft, jaw soft, tongue soft. Raise your arms up again. Tone your tummy. Inhale, exhale, bend your ankles, knees, and hips and lean forwards. And this time we're coming all the way down to touch the floor. And then a little bit more movement. So this should help to create some fluidity on the myofascia of the back. So in particular, the thoracolumbar fascia. So as you bend and extend, you can breathe through your nose, and this will help not just the back, but the back of the legs and the soles of the feet. If we move, then blood circulates. If we move, then extraneous myofascia melts. Raise the arms as before, behind you this time, and then forwards. Again, for the same pose, Utkata. In some traditions, it's translated as fierce, but Utkata just means to squat. Stand up, big circle, hands to heart. Let's take a deep breath, or two, or three. These poses, if you find balance difficult, can be done holding a chair, by the way, many of these, including the next one. If you were holding a chair, the seat would face away from you in the back of the chair towards you. We're coming into Vrikshasana, so raise up the right heel and take a breath or two. As I said, you could be holding a chair. Very good. People who practice balance live on average 5 years longer than people who don't. So I don't know if that's what you want or not, but I think for every year you're alive, one hopes one gets a little wiser. This is why we chant to white Tārā, for example. So we live a little longer. We chant to her for longevity. So we're tuning in on the standing leg, foot arches, plural. And then when you're ready, raise your leg and bring the heel into the thigh and the thigh into the heel, and the hands back into prayer position. Of course, the foot might not come as high as that, might not come to the inner thigh. It might cup the knee, which contrary to some opinions is okay. What we don't want to do is put too much pressure directly on the medial knee, because that would put equal and opposite amount of pressure on the ligaments on the outer knee, the collateral ligaments, or the lateral collateral. So if your foot is on the knee, cupping it's fine because the arches aren't pressing into the knee directly. But having your heel pressing straight onto the knee, that wouldn't be so good. Huh? Breathing easy. We know Vrikshasana as a pose with actual history. Most yoga poses don't have much more than 100-year history at best. But there are a few that have actual history, and not that they would be necessarily associated even with the word yoga, but more with a tapasin, a practitioner of tapas, which is connected to yoga, but not quite the same. Connected, very much so. Release your hands, place your foot, take a breath. I'd like to say that I can hear, but you're muted, so I can't hear your breath, but I can feel the energy. We can feel the energy back and forth. So feel the energy in the body by moving, breathing, loosening, relaxing, and looking for a breath that agrees with this whole spirit of relaxation. Raise the other heel when you're ready and really feel into your foot arches, of which there are 3 per foot, medial, lateral, transverse. And the way to feel into your foot arches is to move forwards and backwards investigatively. Sanditiko Dhamma, investigative truth. Huh? And then when you're ready, Sanditiko Dhamma means apparent truth. And then foot comes up to wherever you bring it, hands into prayer. So we have Sanditiko Dhamma, which means the truth is apparent. What you need to know is available for you to know here and now. So what is it we need to know? Sometimes we call it the goddess, sometimes we just call it Prakriti, sometimes we call it Praticca Samuppada, conditioned co-production. It's this moment in all its interdependent reality here and now, which can't be known by thinking, but only through Sharanagati, surrender. You know, the St. Augustine thing, throw your cup into the ocean. Don't try and put the ocean in your cup. So breathing through the nose, soft eyes, soft brain, soft tongue, soft jaw. And I sometimes call this what part of the poses I categorize as wobbly fun. Okay, beautiful. Release your hands and with calmness, release your foot and have a little shake out, a little bit of a moment. Now I'm going to go sideways on just to make it clear that the next movement comes from the hip joints. And I think I'm going to take the tank top off. It's getting serious already. So you don't have to be sideways on. It just makes the point more clear. We're going to raise the arms up, tone the tummy up, inhale, lift, exhale, fold. Now here the hands are going flat to the floor, which might well mean bending your knees, right? It commonly does mean bending the knees because we want the hands flat to the floor. Obviously, some people have got very short legs and a very long body and very long arms, in which case you might not need to bend the knees. That's fine. Either way, what we're interested in here is a release from the hip joints of all the back muscles and the muscles along the sides of the body as well. So take deep breaths. You could hold your elbows. Some people do that. Regarding the release of the head, I have heard yoga teachers say, bring the crown of the head to face towards the floor. I don't think it's a good instruction because what we want actually is the spinal column to be in its natural alignment. And only if or when there's an increased tilt of the pelvis, which then brings an increased release of the back, the head will follow. And eventually, in a very released moment, the crown might face the floor. But it's the last part of a release that starts with the hip joints and just can't be rushed, Either way, hands are flat on the floor. We're going to walk them forwards along the yoga mat and step the feet back. And this is the Adho Mukha Svanasana. Still yet to hear yoga teachers say it right. I'm trying to instill it in people. Adho Mukha Svanasana. So the Adho bit is the bit people often get wrong. And Adho means down. So it's Adho Mukha. Down face or down mouth or down head. And Mukha can have multiple meanings. Open up the armpits, inner, outer, under. Stretch through your back. Heels back, groins up, back thighs forwards, front thighs up. Those are in correct instructions that are impossible to follow. Right? What we can do is tune in on them, not follow them. So heels back, groins up is one. You might do it with one leg and then release it. Try it with the other. It takes a lot of time to tune in on just that part of the instruction. Heels back, inner groins up. Back thighs forwards is part of the same experience.
So as the heels go back, the groins go up and the back thighs go forwards towards the front thighs. And that's what provides the support for the front thighs then to lift up. And this is obviously just the start of down face dog. We could do a whole workshop on down face dog. That would be rather lovely, actually. We're going to come down and we're going to sit in a kneeling position, for which many of us will find advantage, of course, in using a block here between the heels and buttocks. And then it's just breath. Just breath. Bit of rolling on the shins, massages the tibialis anterior on the front shin, massages the gastrocnemius and soleus on the calf, the bicep femoris and the semitendinous on the back of the thigh, and the semimembranous. Hang on, not bicep femoris. Oh no, it is bicep femoris. Hamstrings. And the quadricep muscles, rectus femoris, and the three vastus muscles. So you can feel as you're moving, these muscles are moving and gliding and moving. I think it can feel pretty good. Release your hands when you're ready and take a block and a belt. Now, I think it's been long enough now that most people have got a block and a belt at home, but it may be that you don't, and that's not a problem because you use a big book or a neatly folded towel in place of the block. And regarding the belt, most people have got a dressing gown, so you can take the belt off of that if you need to. The belt should be open. Some belts are done up already, as mine is. So make sure that they're open and available like that. And simply bend the leg that's furthest away from, if you've got the camera set up like I have, you would take the leg furthest away from the camera back. But you might not have that set up, so it doesn't matter. You take either leg back if you've got a different setup. Once you've taken one leg back, the other one just hops out a little bit, just a little bit. Pull on the shin, lift up in the chest, lower back and waist. Breathe through your nose. Jaw soft, eyes soft, shoulders down. See if you can find some height. See if you can find some lift. Look for height, look for lift. Look for height, look for lift. Now here we're massaging through movement various areas of myofascia. We can feel the myofascia of the gluteus maximus where it inserts on the sides of the sacrum above the tail and below the waist. That's a very nice massage. You can feel muscles around the tail itself. Make it a nice massage. You can feel muscles of the lower back and of the outer legs and of the back leg, of the straight leg, and so on. So all the time we're moving, increased amounts of hydration come into the body, and that's a great prep. Next, we're going to bring the same arm as the bent leg forwards on the inside of the leg and reach towards the foot. Now, I'm not saying that you should reach the foot. Obviously, short-legged, long-armed, long-torsoed people will reach the foot with ease. But some people have got very long, beautiful, long, elegant, long legs, like the legs of an antelope. Beautiful. So they're not going to be able to reach. That might be you. That's fine. It's just anatomy. So you can go anywhere on the leg. Doesn't have to be the foot at all. Wherever you are, the other hand is cupped on the floor like a stabilizer. And again, a little bit of movement side to side just to massage it in, especially around the tailbone. Your breath really, really matters in the way we allow the breath to respond to resistances by accepting their release. The breath is where things are accepted or rejected, and we want to accept. Now that same extended arm will then come to the floor, and you'll flip the palm so that the thumb faces back. And you'll wrap the arm underneath the bent leg, and this is where you might use your belt to bridge the gap between the hands, unless you've got long arms. And you might reach one hand with the other directly. So it doesn't matter which way you go about it, but we breathe easy. I should say that for some people, if it's difficult to lean forwards because the hamstrings are a little tight, then it might be difficult as well to hook your arm around your leg, unless you happen to have a long leg. So you can also put the foot of the bent leg on a block if you need to. So this is Marichasana number 1. It's a little twist, which I think is rather nice. Breathe into it. Keep your eyes soft and brain soft. Now turn slow and easy back towards your extended leg, pressing into the shin and melting as you move. Pressing into the shin of the bent leg, with your arm, and melting to move. So deep breaths, soft eyes, soft brain, not trying to be rigid in any way. We know in the Yoga Sutra, we're told that our effort should have the qualitative tone of relaxation, should be hallmarked by being relaxing. The Yoga Sutra from the 4th century tells us this. If you take it slow, if you're like the tortoise, not the hare, then you will get a lot further, as we know from the story of the tortoise and the hare. So I think as long as you're not struggling, trying and gripping, then this pose is beautiful and meditative and should be full of trust, Great, okay. Come back up through the twist. Release slow and easy. Stretch out your legs. Take a deep breath or 2, maybe a little rub down. Deep breath or 2 or 3 or 4. And then I'm going to move to the other end of my mat, but you don't need to unless you want to. And the only reason I'm doing that is so I can still see you, because you got a lovely face, to be quite honest. So you obviously fold the other leg back to the one you just did. The straight leg hops out and you pull on the shin to lift up in the waist. You pull on the shin to lift up on the waist. Breath comes and goes through the nose for this pose. And you move meditatively, just as we did on the first side, for exactly the same reason. So, of course, that reason is the melting of extraneous myofascia, which we can visualize as sort of fibers, like the kind of webbing that Spider-Man kicks out of his wrists when he wants to swing from here to there. And the spider men that do that are specialized cells called fibroblasts. So these fibroblasts are constantly meshing the body up, which sometimes messes the body up if you don't melt them, because they'll just keep building on top of themselves. And if you limit your range of movement, then you get limited to that range of movement that you do most often, because the tissue builds up so thick that you just feel stiff and limited. But you're melting it as you're moving, and you're hydrating it as you're moving. So that's why it's worth doing these preps, spending time being the tortoise, not being the hare. So for me, I'd happily do this quite a bit longer, feeling the melting, listening to how that's happening. You can feel things like blood begins to flow more easily because the myofascia is not putting pressure on the blood vessels. When you're ready, however, we'll stretch the same arm as the bent leg through the inside of the leg. The other hand is cupped like a stabilizer, and there's more rocking and movement. So because my hamstrings are relatively flexible, my pelvis can tilt and I can tilt. And that's why I can reach the foot. Some people can reach the foot without flexible hamstrings because they've got short legs and long arms. But the point is, it's not important to reach directly to the foot. You can have your hand further back. But know that lots of little movements will make a very quick progress, quite astounding progress if you stick with the small movements multiplied. Lots of little movements. So again, I'd be very, very happy indeed to spend longer here, but we're going to bring the arm, as before, underneath the leg, palm up. So I've got my thumb pushing back, and then the arm goes right the way underneath the leg, and you take a direct or indirect hold. So remember, the indirect is using a belt, and you work round into the twist of this Madhyachasana number 3. Breathing natural, eyes soft, listening and responding is an absorbed experience that we also call yoga. So take deep breaths. Feel free to move. Feel free to put a block underneath your foot, as I mentioned already. Eyes soft, brain soft, throat soft. So this is the twist part of Madhyachasana number 1. Then we're going to push and turn, like you're sort of tracking a semicircle. And as you turn, there's a soft pushing of the bound arm into the shin that can be used alongside movement, meditative movement, that can help cause a release if we assume the attitude of the tortoise and not that of the hare. So it's all about melting. We'll talk about melting a little bit later in more detail. Now for me, it's a pose. I just want to stay, but we're going to come up through the twist, nice and calm. And then very slowly release, very slowly. We don't want to sort of fire out of that. We're going to lay down on our backs. And again, the belt, even if you didn't use it before, you might find it useful now. So have it close to hand. Have a block under your head, just as I've got here, and lay down on your back when you feel ready. Breathing through your nose. Just observe the back. Often after twists like that, the back absolutely loves a release. So just take a few breaths and just really feel that. A release. The jaw as well, of course, is released, and the eyes. Now, when the back feels like it's eased off and settled and harmonized with the breath, then you take your belt and you raise up one leg. We're simply going to bring the belt around what I call the front of the heel. So the back of the heel corresponds to the back of the foot. And so the front of the heel is where the heel intersects with the foot arches, which we talked briefly about earlier, that there are 3 foot arches, but it intersects with 2 of them, the medial and the lateral. The arms should be straight. Don't bend the elbows, have the arms straight. Breathe through your nose and soften your eyes. And relax the curves, or the lordosi, of the cervical and lumbar areas. So cervical rather, is the neck, and then the lumbar is the lower back. We're going to extend the lower leg by first lifting the foot right up off the floor of the other leg, and then skimming and extending, and really seeing if you can nudge a bit more stretch
out from the groin, out from the hip. So breathing into that neck soft, eyes soft, brain relaxed. Really seeing if you can nudge that little bit of extra, stretch out of the groin. So this is, of course, Supta Pādangusthāsana. Supta meaning supine. And Pādangushtha actually indicating the holding of the big toe. Or, so we have Angushta, which can mean the thumb. Pādangushtha is the thumb of the foot. So Pada meaning foot. So Pādangushtha is the thumb of the foot. In other words, the big toe. Or the great toe. Now we're going to do one more thing while we're in Supta Pādangusthāsana, and that is to imagine that someone's got a belt at the top of our thigh, and they're pulling it right at the crease at the top. Now, as we imagine that, pulling it, it does what some yoga schools call cutting in. That is that crease gets deeper. That deepening of the crease will start bringing the leg a little bit towards your head. We're not forcing, we're not trying. It's all about the cutting in. And for some, the head can lift as well. Breathing is deep. Mind is calm. The mind is calm. So this is Supta Pādangusthāsana Ekam. Number one, release your head, bend the lower leg, release the upper leg. Let's all take a deep breath with a sigh-like exhale. And let a few of those come and go, not just one, but a few. And while you're breathing, just make sure your head support is in the right place. Now, we don't want the edge of it cutting in halfway down our necks. We really want the block to be underneath the skull and underneath the top two bones of the neck. Now, you can find where those top two bones of the neck are simply by taking two fingers and putting those at the base of the skull and making sure that that area of those two fingers is on the block. Should ensure that those two bones, the atlas and the axis, are also on the block. Go ahead and raise up your second leg when you're ready. And let's place, with due care and respect, the strap in the right place, which is at the front of the heel. Relax your eyes, relax your lumbar, relax the shoulders, relax the brain, relax the tongue. So those two curves of the upward curves of the neck and the lumbar, we're not trying to take them away, we're just relaxing them. If the muscles in those areas are tense, then of course the curves will deepen, will become more curved in those areas, but that might be too curved because of the tightness of the muscles. Keep breathing, keep your eyes soft, keep the jaw soft. Flex up the other hip, that is to say, lift up the other foot, and hopefully your lower back will have a nice moment for a moment. Breathe into it. And then when you're ready, extend the lower leg with a real focus on extending the inner groin. So movements of the foot, they can really be helpful to get that stretch and that space in the groin. And of course, repetition. Rome wasn't built in a day. They had to keep doing it day in, day out. A journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. Multiple steps make the journey. And a jug fills drop by drop are all sayings that indicate this continuous progression that leads to enormous amounts of progress. Now, when ready, again, let's imagine the belt around the top of the thigh of the raised leg, right at the top where the crease is, and then someone's pulling on that. So you get that calm, very, very calm, actually, cutting in. Very, very calm, cutting in action. And one can, if one wishes, lift the head, Continue to breathe calmly. Keeping the chin and chest together. I'm a bit conscious that I might be too close to the microphone. Let's try it there. Chin and chest together. No strain on the neck whatsoever. A very calm disposition. Staitilya. It means like relaxed. Be relaxed. Head down. Bend the lower leg. Release the upper. Shanai, shanai. Like slowly, slowly. Deep breaths, soft jaw. Follow the breath, calm the mind. Follow the breath, calm the mind. Remove the block that's under your head and put it under your pelvis instead. Sorry about that rhyming. Underneath your pelvis. Your tailbone should come off the end of the block. And it could be a book, as I said before, if you need it to be, or a neatly folded towel or a couple of towels, neatly folded, or a cotton blanket. The tailbone being off the end means that when you move side to side, you get a massage for several areas. The direct contact massage around the gluteus maximus, where it inserts into the sides of the SI joint, the sacroiliac joint. It also means that the muscles around the pelvic floor bring up or show whatever they're holding. Now lift up your feet. Keep that tailbone off the end. It's not going to work if your tailbone's not off the end. So I'm just wiggling mine to make sure it really is. And then raise the legs up. Okay. Raise the arms up too. Breathe through your nose. Jaw soft. So this is a sort of hybrid between Viparita Karani and Urdhva Prasrita Padasana. Breathing through your nose. Let the whole thing have a little bit of freedom to bob around. We're going to just take opposites away from each other. So left hand, right leg, and then come back together. Right hand, left leg, and then come back together and do the same a couple more times. Imagine that the opposites are attached by a piece of elastic that, let's do 3 in total, that as it stretches, it wants to then recoil quite powerfully. It recoils. Good. And then once your legs are back up, sway your arms side to side and you'll feel your shoulder blades moving, right? You'll feel as your arms go to the right, you'll feel your left shoulder blade lift up and move, and vice versa. Move your shoulder blades multiple times. Get a lot more out of your body this way. A lot more out of your body. And gradually, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. A jug fills drop by drop. So repetition, abhyasa, is highly recommended. Repetition and spaciousness. In Sanskrit, this is abhyasa vairagyabhyam tanirodha. Now, once you're fully in the position, that is to say, integrated, then we can play any way we want, pushing the heels, pushing the toes, scrunching the toes and releasing, circling the feet, moving them between dorsi and plantar flexion. Just find your own investigations that feel good in the present. And then bend your knees and place your feet down. Take a deep breath that I can hear, in and out, and then another and another and another, actually. Let a few of these deep breaths come and go. And bring your arms forwards then to the block. And if you have got a block, even with a book, if it's quite firm, this will work. If you haven't got a block or a book, you can just lift up without the support. But we're going to keep that block, turn it, and that will go across the sacrum, which is the bony plate between the buttock flesh, above your tailbone and below your lumbar. Open the chest towards the chin and bring the chin towards the chest. The tummy has a sort of light tone to it. And breathing is, of course, nasal through the nose. So we'll spend a couple of breaths or so in this pose, with the chin and chest together, the Jalandhara Bandha. Jala meaning water, Andhara is something to hold, sort of holding something. So it's called like holding water. But it's actually not really Jala, it's so much as Amrita, life force that we're holding. We're making sure our life force energy is retained for a while and stabilized through this bandha. Couple more breaths if you're okay. Okay, walk your feet back towards your block, and if you lift your heels up and you stay very, very calm, Staitilya, then we're going to take the block away with a little lift, move it to one side, walk the feet away from the bum, pop your hands underneath your head, and let me hear you take a deep breath in with a sigh-like exhale. And let's allow for at least 3 of those really sigh-like, relaxed exhales. Like giving to the moment instead of, grasping the past or reaching out for the future, which we do, don't we? All of us, just grasping and gripping at the past, which, even the word the past makes it sound like it's a thing. What we're gripping to is ideas in the present, electrical signals in the present. The past only exists as electrical signals in the present. What we call memory, it's not any, actually a thing, It exists as the ripples that exist in the present. The way the present is an expression of something that has gone and a potential of something to be. Now flex up your hips, lift up your feet, and if you keep the lower back close to the floor, you'll feel there's a degree of a calm tone and intelligent control. Lift up your head and you're going to feel the abdominal muscles. Breathe into the sensation of the abdominal muscles. Keep your eyes soft and brain soft. Extend one leg to about 45 degrees or higher if the back is tight. We want to keep the lower back close to the floor. Retract that leg and raise the other similarly. Again, if it's tight on the lower back, go a little higher with the foot. This is all about the belly, as I'm sure you can feel. Leg back, head down, feet down. Everyone takes a deep breath. Sigh-like exhale. Let there be a few, let there be a few. Deep breaths with sigh-like exhales. Keep letting them flow. Release your hands from behind your head and stretch your arms towards your feet. If you've got any head support, make sure it's not there anymore. Bring your feet close to your bum. Now you can see I've used my hands here, but not everyone's arms are long enough, or maybe they have long arms, but their torso is very, very long as well. So not everyone can reach the shins. That's normal and fine. What we do instead is hold the yoga mat. Well, it's one of the insteads. You can either hold the yoga mat or you might have your belt from earlier nearby, and that can go around the shins. So up to you. Either the belt's probably the most universally useful. If you've got a belt, just use it. But the mat's got its usage. And of course, if you haven't got a belt, a mat works. Then holding the front shins can work for some under the anatomical circumstances I've already described. Great. Lightly tone your tummy, draw in and up, And then lift your pelvis and turn your arms out. Open your chest. So turning the arms out means if you're holding the belt, you twist the belt. If you're holding the mat, you still hold the mat, but you turn the arms out right at the top of the arms and the shoulders. And that opens a sort of gateway, I suppose you could call it. A sort of gateway for your chest to pass through. Don't harden the body or the mind. Don't harden the body or the mind. We should think of softness. You might even know some people who just have a really sort of soft attitude to things. That's the kind of attitude we want ourselves here and now. Not hard, not gripped, not tense, not struggling, but shinai, shinai. Slowly, slowly, steadily, steadily, gently, gently. This is what the Hatha texts tell us. We can find it in many Hatha texts, not least the Dattatreya Yoga Shastra, when it's talking about practices such as pranayama. That Hatha text only has one pose, the lotus pose. But Hatha yoga is to be done shinai, shinai, slowly, slowly. Come down, slowly, slowly. Let go of whatever you're holding, the shins, the mat, the belt, and just bring your arms so they're comfortably positioned away from the body. And take 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 deep breaths or so. Really just enjoy the breath. Just enjoy the breath. Now roll over when you're ready. So maybe that's now. Roll over onto your side. And support your head with your hand, just as I've done here. And extend your bottom ribs by using your other hand to press into the floor and to lift the bottom ribs multiple times. Press, lift, extend, you lift. And then breathing through the nose. A little bit of rolling on the outer thigh can help to massage the outer thigh and the front thigh as well. And that massage, as we've described from some of the poses we've already done, can really prepare the body by melting these sort of spider web kind of fibrous connections that build up all the time from the fibroblasts, like the little Spider-Man's wrists, whenever you're not moving, you know, that. And that's fine because as we move, we melt them, and so the process is natural. But many of us don't have what we might call a natural life. We have jobs where we have to say, sit down for 8 hours, or 7 hours, or 6 hours, or even less. But we're still sitting for long periods of time without moving. And so in those periods of time, the fibroblasts are constantly making connections that build on other connections. And then you suddenly find that blood doesn't circulate as well, or that your immune system's not working as well because the lymph can't get around the body, or that there's pressure on the nerves causing pain. So this, anyway, is hopefully enthusing you to just move around. When you're ready, top leg comes up and you play with it between the horizontal and the vertical planes. And eventually the leg comes all the way up towards this upright position. But again, there's a process of melting. So as I'm moving my leg backwards and forwards, it's the tissue around the top of the thigh that's being pressed and released and pressed and released and becoming more hydrate as a result, becoming increasingly hydrate. And so that means that eventually the leg might be able to come in close enough for us to be able to reach our hand even to the foot without bringing the foot much at all to the hand. It's because the legs come so close, you see. And that's often plenty. We've got lots going on. We've got balance. We've released the inner thigh. Sometimes it can be nice to experiment with raising the leg a bit or a lot. A lot doesn't equate with better, You can have a lot of trouble. Doesn't mean it's, that you're having a better time. So a lot just means a lot. A little just means a little. Better means more absorbing. So if a little is more absorbing, that's the better thing. If a lot is more absorbing, that's the better thing. If it going between the two is more absorbing, that's, If you find balance tricky, you can bend the lower leg. That can help. Okay. Relax, relax, relax. Bring your leg down. Bring your knees up, head down, have a moment. And another, and another, and another, and just curl on up. Curl on up. Great. Let's do the second side in the same way. So similarly, we're going to extend the bottom ribs, perhaps more than once. There are many reasons why this is beneficial. Most of them boil down to the release, the melting of the myofascia that I've described, and all the side effects that come from that. There's also the challenge to habit patterns, known as samskara. And then a little rolling can further help to melt some of this extraneous myofascia. Myofascia obviously isn't something that we just don't want. We desperately do want myofascia, but we just don't want it, fascia of any kind, building up in ways that restrict our movement, and that includes the movement of the blood and the lymph, as well as of our limbs. So hopefully you're rolling while I'm talking. And hopefully you're rolling in ways that help your breath to become expressive. And I hope your eyes become soft as well. That would be nice. And you could do this for a while, I'm sure, but we're going to work on the top leg and bringing it up between the horizontal and vertical planes. The same criteria, the same theory of movement, creating hydration, creating melting, creating flow. And so in time, you feel this tissue around the top of the thigh, which is the tissue of the adductor insertions, the tissue of some of the hip flexors and their supportive muscles. So the psoas and the rectus femoris and the sartorius. And then we're going to reach through and see if we have melted enough to and been patient enough to get the foot to come to the hand without distorting the foot, without twisting the foot. Okay. And then there's the investigative opportunities to bend or extend for reasons I mentioned already. So the bending, the extending is there for the benefit of absorption. So if more is more absorbing, you have a lot of stretches more absorbing, that's what we do. If a little is more absorbing, that's what we do. If moving between a lot and a little is absorbing, that's what we do. Absorbing means that we're absorbing in the interconnected experience of now, that is this moment. Jaw soft, eyes soft, throat soft, brain soft, tongue soft. So again, we're holding the pada angusta, the angusta meaning the thumb, and the pada angusta, which means the angusta of the foot. Okay, well done. Come down slow and easy. Knees up. Let's have a little moment, shall we? Little resty moment and breathe. Jaw soft, eyes soft, throat soft, brain soft even. And then just curl yourself up nice and easy from the side. We're going to come into Upavishta Konasana, which Upavishta means to sit. Kona means corner. So to sit in a sort of cornered angle. So that means a wide-legged position, basically. Upavishta Konasana. Now, for most of us, sitting on a block is the right thing to do. So here's the block. That's the corner of the block. That corner would face directly forwards as you sit on the block, so that your thighs are free and your sitting bones are on the block. So in other words, you put the block diagonally and the corner just sticks forwards in front of the pubis, just a little bit. I hope that makes sense. You don't have to sit on a block, however. Some people, for a variety of anatomical reasons, can sit up tall without a block. It doesn't matter whether you're on a block or not. It's about sitting up tall. Take your hands cupped. Cup them towards me so I can see they're cupped. Go on. There you go. And then turn them back behind you, fingers pointing back, and just roll your shoulders and shoulder blades down your back and chest up. Breathe through your nose. So the stretch is really hamstrings, adductors, and psoas. There's other stretches too, intercostals, and we can feel a stretch across the pectoralis too. But these muscles that we can feel, particularly the hip flexors, the psoas, as you roll, let's repeat that roll. Roll your shoulders over and your shoulder blades down. We should feel a stretch that comes right up from the top of the inner thighs up on both legs, top of the inner thighs up. And we breathe into that as we let the legs relax and eyes relax and brain relax. Now it's possible, but probably not likely, but it's possible that as time goes by, you can sit up straighter and straighter. The pelvis becomes more upright. You feel like you're leaning back less. In time, that will have, not sometimes it's quite a while, but in time, the pelvis will move not just to upright, but forwards. In other words, the top of the pelvis comes forwards. And in that case, you could bring your hands forwards. Please don't think that that's the ambition, that if somebody had their hands forwards, they're doing better. Better means absorbing. Sometimes we force ourselves into a further stretch because we think that's what we're supposed to be doing. We think we're supposed to be getting better at the poses in some sort of objective, externalized way. And there's big problems in the yoga world, like people trying to get a yoga competitions, we're trying to, how can we do competitions when it's just about absorption? How can you measure someone's absorption against someone else's? So that's what you should feel. So if it's right for you to lean forwards like I am, then it's right because it's more absorbing to do that. It probably will be less absorbing to come forwards like that for most. So wherever you're best positioned. That's lovely. Okay. Lovely pose. Let's ease out of it. I think it's a great pose. Very transformational. We're going to bring our legs back together because I don't know how this has happened, but the time has just run away. And we're going to sit on a block. If you've got a brick block like this, that's the one to go for. If you haven't, if you've got regular blocks like this, you have the short end facing forwards and maybe have two of them, one on top of the other, because we're going to sit in Siddhasana. So some texts like Dattatreya Yoga Shastra tell us that we should, that the best pose and the only pose we need to really worry about is Padmasana. Other texts like the Viveka Matanda and the Hatha Pradipika tell us that this pose, Siddhasana, is the go-to. So heels aligned with each other and the midline of the body. Buttock flesh drawn out and back. Ribs and chest up. Head down, shoulders down.
Breathe through your nose, shoulders down again. Breathe through your nose, shoulders down again. Jaw soft, eyes soft, brain soft. Into relaxing natural breath. Imagine that when you breathe in, that the breath is drawn down from a point that is 12 finger widths above the crown of your head. We can even measure it. Let's do it together. 4. Let's do it together. +4, that's it. +4, that's 12. Put your hand at that point of 12. And then imagine the breath as you breathe in draws down from there to the bottom of the breastbone and returns back up to there on the exhalation. Sometimes it's useful to keep the hand there for a while, and then you gradually feel you can dispense with it because you can feel that point then. And you just carry on. That's very simple practice. Cleansing the central channel. Couple more breaths. Let your eyes begin to open if they were closed. And we're going to lay down for another practice that we find in the text I've already mentioned, the Tārā Yoga Shastra. That is corpse pose. So lay yourself down on your back. Make sure you're warm enough. Probably are, but sometimes it's nice to put a blanket on. And make sure your head doesn't tip back. If it does, a blanket under the head, neatly folded, or a towel, or a block if it's not too big. Palms away from the body, legs not too wide. Eyes closed when you're ready for this practice of dissolving. This practice of dissolving. This is what the Tārā Yoga Shastra says that it is. It's a practice of dissolution, of dissolving. So eyes can be closed, jaw can be soft. Feel the skin melting and the mind softening and the muscles dissolving. Boundaries merging back into interdependence. Breath melts back into its interdependence with the body. Body melts back into its interdependence with the mind. Now, one of the great things about doing yoga by Zoom, of course, is that if you have the time, you can stay longer in corpse pose. And I do recommend, if you've got another 5 minutes, I would definitely recommend really spending that 5 minutes to let the pose really absorb in. Just like in a way, a plant that hasn't been watered for a while, if you water it and leave it, then it will pick up because it absorbs into its cells that water. So you're absorbing the energy of the class into your cells. If you need to come out at this time, well, then you'll follow the following instructions at this time. But if you've got 5 minutes, you'll follow the instructions that I'm going to give in 5 minutes. So they will simply be, or they are simply, to move the fingers and the toes, to feel into the body through investigative stretches. Maybe rubbing the eyes or running a hand through the hair. Natural stretches before then bending the legs and placing the feet on the floor. This might not be now, in 5 minutes perhaps. And rolling onto your left side with the knees up for a breath or 3 or 4. Very calm before rolling to the other side similarly. And eventually bringing yourself up from the side. So if you're coming up now, that's fine. If you're not coming up now, that's fine. You can do this last little practice from laying down. And so you don't have to do anything. But if you're sitting up, you can bring your hands to your heart. That's fine. But just concentrate on your heart if you're laying down. And if you agree with the sentence I'm about to say, then follow my sentence as I will with Om. And Om means, in this context, means I agree. So have a listen, see what you think. Say Om if you agree. May any benefit gained in our acting in this way go to the alleviation of the suffering of all beings. Om. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. For Yoga Day on the 24th of September and another one on maybe it's the 29th of October. Book on those if you want. They've got a retreat in October. All the info's on the Vajra Society website, so I won't advertise anymore. So have a look at that if you want. Thanks for your time. Really appreciate you coming. See you again, I hope. Thank you very much. Thank you. Bless you. Bless you.